Paul Blinkhorn, pottery expert.
Hello, Dorothy Halfhide, curator of Thorney Heritage Museum. This is from Bridge House, just near the traffic lights in Thorney, where there isn't a test pit this year, but a large fish pond has been dug out.
Right, well most of this pottery is, looking at it, is mid to late 17th century. Some of it is quite swish actually. There's a particularly nice tin glazed tile in blue and yellow. It's probably English, could even be Dutch. Either way, it's the sort of thing you'd only get somewhere quite posh. It's certainly not an everyday item. Everything else, you've got a lot of the everyday pottery. This stuff with the orange glaze on both sides, what we call redware. They start making this about 1550, but it goes right through to about 1750, 1800. So it's fairly nondescript. There's one piece which looks like a little globular drinking jug, which has actually got a maker's mark inscribed in the base. It looks like an A. I've never seen that before. I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen an awful lot of redware, so that in itself is quite interesting. It'd be nice to know where that came from. You've also got part of a tin glazed bowl of some description, again probably English, probably from somewhere like the pickle herring pottery in London, something like that. This sort of glossy brown stuff is manganese ware. It's 1680, 1700 or thereabouts. It's things like tankards. It's exactly the sort of thing you'd expect to see in an inn. The redware with the yellow decoration is slipware. This is again usually 17th century. That would have been a nice big dish with sort of painted designs on the inside. The yellow stuff with the brown slip is Staffordshire slipware. They start making it about 1640, 1650. Yeah, the clay pipes look about the same date as well, with those sort of size bowls and
Apparently there were lots and lots of pipes there.
I can believe. Oh, you'd expect that, yeah. You would expect that. I mean, the thing is, when you bought a pipe of tobacco in that sort of era, you got a pipe as well. This is exactly the sort of thing I'd expect to see from a really quite posh household of the 17th century in this part of the world.
It was the Duke's Head. It was the main coaching inn in Thorney, and it was there until the Victorian period, when it was having a bad time and the Dukes of Bedford were trying to get rid of all the pubs anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the combination of stuff you've got. You've got all the everyday utilitarian wares, like the redwares they would have used in the kitchens. You've got the tin glaze and the slipwares and the manganese wares, which would have been the stuff that had been on the tables for the guests and what have you. So yeah, it's fab. I mean, oysters are a very typical sign of inns. I mean, we think of oysters as being a quite expensive food now, but you go back 200-300 years before the Industrial Revolution, the seas and the rivers were a lot cleaner, and there was oysters absolutely everywhere. And you've got lots of Staffordshire slipware as well. I mean, this stuff comes down from Staffordshire, because some of it was made in Bristol, but it was only the canal network that really allowed this stuff to start travelling, and it turns out most of it was loaded onto barges in Staffordshire and shipped out.
Well, they've still got a very large pile to go through.
Another nice bit of polychrome slipware there as well.
So would you encourage the people who have this house to keep going through their pile?
Oh god, oh yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's a really, I mean, a lot of this might even go together. Yeah, it looks like some of these look like the same. If that was from the same feature an archaeological site, I'd say 1680 to 1700. Yeah. Good thing about particularly the late 17th and the 18th century, a lot of new pottery types come in very regularly. And there's one comes in about 1720, which is white stoneware, which gets quite common quite quickly, especially in places like pubs, and there's no white stoneware. So it's got to be pre-1720. This comes in 1680, so 1680 to 1720 for the whole lot, I think.